You know, there's so many different ways to set up a queen rearing operation. There is no wrong answer here. It's just whichever suits your style, okay? So before anybody goes and tells you that, hey, you know, that Steppler showed you something and it's not right, you know, that's bullshit. I sent Carrie around today to find our breeder queens, all the flagged hives throughout the apiary. So she's gathered 10, or she's probably going to bring back 12, and we'll try to pare that down to about 5 once we start. So she spent all day going through the apiary and assessing things. Kept her busy. Today, as I was kind of working by myself, I was working away at some equalizing, and I'm also putting together some builders. So this is what I want my builder to look like. Just packed full of bees. So there's probably, you know, 2 or 3 hives worth of young bees in that box. So I got a lot of bees in that. So that's what I'm going for. These are my two, my strong unit. Put a salvage unit on top. So the strong unit come up and boosted this salvage unit, okay? So what's going on is this queen is reestablishing this top nest. And by doing that, there's like 3 or 4, 5 frames of, you know, there's brood in here. There's a lot of young brood, uncapped brood, some larvae. There's a lot of young bees up in this top box. So what I'm doing is I'm going through and finding my stronger units. Found the queen. She's in the cage here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shake all the bees from this top box into my builder. And I'm going to do maybe 1 or 2 hives this way into a single builder, just to make sure there's a lot of young bees in these building boxes. And so this top box will be empty, but there's enough bees down to the below here that they're going to migrate back up through the excluder to take care of that young brood. So I'm just harvesting a lot of young bees is what I'm doing. And then the queen will just carry on with business as usual. So this is the builder I'm setting up. And I have foundation, honey, we have some pollen in the center. We will be rearranging this box once we get it back, and I'm going to arrange it so we can drop a graft or 2 graft frames into it. So basically all we're doing right now is just stocking it full of bees. Here's a frame of young larvae. Tons of young bees on that frame. Cap brood. Shaking nectar from these frames today. Now is high time for making queens. Another frame of open brood. Another frame. This queen is sure stretched her. She probably had like a frame and a half of bees, and now she's sporting like 5 frames of brood, all stages. Absolutely astounding. Okay, so now the young bees have been stripped from this top box into here, and I'll do that. I'll probably shake another 2 colonies into that box, which is a lot, but it will give me lots of young bees. Put Majesty back. She wants to go. There, now she can carry on her work. As you can see, those bees are already moving up to cover that brood. So I was able to harvest a lot of young bees from this hive, and I'm pulling them back by doing that. But these guys are going to carry on with normal colony function right after here, and I'll come back in a couple of weeks and I won't know any different. So So I have my builders in place, and you can see there's a lot of bees in those boxes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a box of foundation underneath them just to give them a place to hang out and dispense some resource if they have the extra. And then tomorrow we're going to set these up to accept cells on Wednesday. So 1,500 hives went into winter last fall. We went around and there's 11 colonies here. This is the brilliance of my apiary. This will be the stock that heads my apiary for this year until next year. And I'll just read you this letter I got from this fellow from Palm Bay, Florida. I love watching your YouTube videos and I appreciate what you're doing for the beekeepers across the globe. I'm a backyard beekeeper and a machinist by trade, and I've made some gadgets for beekeeping. Enclosed are a set of frame fingers designed to hold a single frame on the outside of a standard hive box. That's what these are. No, those ones there. And my latest, a queen bee breeding calendar disc. The inner wheel refers to the day when the egg was laid, and the outer wheel to the current calendar date. My gift to you, do what you please with them. Keep up the videos. A lot of people are learning from what you do. So these are the, I don't know if you noticed in my videos that I find the queen and I lean her on the outside of the box. Well, he sent me these to attach to the side of the box so that I can kind of just rest the frame on the side of the box without having to set it down into the grass. So this is super cool. And they're nice and lightweight and, you know, not very cumbersome. So I'm going to try them out. And then my queen breeding calendar. So you guys have my slide rule.
You have your slide rule?
This is my queen breeding slide rule.
Yeah.
For ruler. Where I slide the date of the month alongside the corresponding numbers. And that's how I figure my grafting out. But he's come up with this little disc. You can't see it, but it has the days within the inner circle. So he's got everything all stenciled out with the calendar date on the outside. So if we graft on the first day of May, that means it's going to be capped on the 6th, incubate on the 9th, and it's going to be into the nukes by the 11th.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is going to be really handy. You can just put this in my pocket. Super cool.
This is produced by April Steppler, Ian Steppler, Leah Steppler, and Charlie Steppler. Thank you for watching.
So working away, continue to add some builders to my yard. I'm going to have about 8 here eventually. Tomorrow we're going to set up these 2 builders to draw out some graft frames. I'm just going to show you how I have them set up. So you see me stock these full of bees yesterday. So this top box is right full of bees. So how we've set this up now is, this is a frame feeder. So we have them on liquid feed. They've been just devouring that right now. So we've set this up. And we want all these young bees to be very well fed before we put the graft frame in. So here's liquid feed, frame of foundation, then we have honey, then we have a pollen frame, then a foundation, pollen, honey. And these 2 foundation frames is where the graft frame is going to be dropped into. So out of these two, we're going to run these two together. We're going to run 2 frames of 30. So we're going to run a 30 frame in slot A, and we're going to do the same in this hive too. We're going to drop a frame into slot A. In 4 days, we're going to shift this frame into slot B, and we're going to drop another graft frame in this place. And then after 4 days, we'll do the same thing. This frame will then go into the incubator, and it just keeps rotating through like that. And that way, this colony can be an almost like continual royal jelly production, and it kind of suits my schedule. Every 4 days, then into the incubator for a couple days, and then into the nukes. So we'll see if that works. We see how well it works. We'll give it a try. So what I want to do is I want to show you my my cards that I'm making up here. I have this little laminator, and what I do is on the front of each breeder, I have my score tag, so I have to name my queen in there. I'll name like A, B, B, Q or something like that, and then throughout the year we do an assessment on it, and this is what we use throughout the apiary. As we go through and we find possible breeders throughout the year, we'll tag it with this tag, and then throughout the year we will just grade it, and at the end of the year we should have a grade on the colony. And coming through winter when we're doing, and then in the spring when we're doing our selections, we'll find these tags, and then we'll take the best. As I'm sending my graft frames through the builders, I follow that graft frame with my little tag here. I did this last year, worked very well. It just tells me the date and timing of when everything happened on that graft frame. So when Carrie goes through and does work, she grafts on a certain date, so there'd be a graft on a certain date there, and then tells us when we have to transfer to the incubator and to the nukes and when it's going to hatch and all this kind of stuff. And it just helps me keep track of the work that's going on when I'm not around. So at the end of the day, I can walk around, check the card, see if the work was done, and I don't have to interrogate Carrie at the end of the day to see what was done and what wasn't done. It will be all in this card. So this card follows the graft frame through and into the incubator, and then into our records as we transfer the cells into the nukes. That's basically what I do. It's pretty simple, and it works very well.
Then I'm transferring worker larvae into queen cells to turn them into queens. And then a full bar.
How do you do it without glasses?
I can see things up close. I can't see things distantly.
Oh, I see.
Well, it just gets fuzzy. Like that. That sticks to the tool.
It's tiny. How do you get them off? You just kind of...
You either push them off, or if they're hanging off even just the slightest, they'll usually stick to the bottom of the cell. Which I kind of prefer those ones, but you have to hit the larvae in just the right spot so that it just comes off nicely.
How do you choose the larvae in the comb?
Amount of feed. I like them sitting in nice big puddles.
Oh, yeah.
This little itty bitty teeny tiny larvae in nice big puddles.
So just hatched then?
Yeah. And very, very well fed.
That one's tiny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you can see that.
very carefully. There.
So I'm going to leave you alone. Carrie picks out the builder from the yard and sits down in the truck, cranks some tunes, grafts a bunch of frames. You're going to do 4 bars today, I guess?
Yeah, 4 of these.
So that's 90 we're going to do. And then we have our builder just on the other side. So as soon as she gets a frame grafted, it goes straight into the builder. Builder is freshly stocked with young bees. This frame has been moved over to slot B, and here's a new graft frame coming in to slot A. These hives are very well fed with syrup. Lots of pollen coming in today, and they are devouring that protein patty, as you can see. So very well fed. And we're going to do the same. We'll drop 1 graft frame into this hive, and we're going to do the same in number 2 here. Okay, typically I like to leave the builders alone, at least for 36 hours. This is the first graft, and I just want to take a peek to see how it's doing. We try to leave these guys alone. Hardly any smoke. We don't like using smoke in the builder yard or with the around the breeders, but we find if we don't use smoke in the yard, these guys get really cranky. So we kind of use the smoke kind of like a whip. So we kind of train them that when we're here with the smoke, we use just a little bit, keeps them calm, and then the yard stays in a lot calmer state. So looks like they're eating the patty. All this pollen coming in, they're still devouring this stuff. Okay, let's just see what's going on here. Carrie would kick my ass if she knew I was digging into here, but I'm the boss, so be it. Carrie does all my queen work, my graft work. I basically just set the plate. She does she manages the queen rearing operation as she sees fit. I'm good with a hammer. I'm not very good with a grafting tool, and I don't pretend I am, but I am really good at setting the plate and putting the program together, and then Carrie does all the work and she executes it. So she has her own, and I just leave it all up to her. Everybody has their own style and their own quirks on how they manage things. So I'm kind of hands off on all this and just let her do what she wants. Let her take as long as she needs to do it, because the end objective is what I'm looking for is good queens. And if I get good queens, then that keeps me in business and makes me a lot of money. So this is the time of year we got to dedicate a lot of attention. We can't rush through any of this. Okay, so this is our first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So you got 28 out of 30 of this. As you can see, there's lots of young bees feeding those larvae there. They're actively feeding right now, you can actually see. Drawing out the frames, drawing out the cells perfectly. These are going to be beautiful looking cells. Look at the royal jelly they've already established in the bottom of the cups. You probably can't see that, but beautiful. So I'm going to put this away and I'm going to show you what we're going to do here. So my idea is to try to keep this, I'd like to keep my frames tight. It just helps manage the webbing. So what I'm going to do this year anyways, is I want to keep this builder, it's queenless. I have it stocked full of young bees. and every week I'm going to be dumping 3 or 4 or 5 frames of fresh young hatched bees into this colony to keep it refreshed with really young bees is my objective. So what I want to do is keep this colony in a continuous royal jelly production state. So what I'm doing is the graft goes in slot A. 4 days later it switches into slot B. A new frame goes into slot A. There'll be the rotation. This one in slot B will rotate out into the incubator on day 8, and then this frame in slot A would go into B. So just a continual rotation. This colony should be in continual royal jelly production, and my thinking is there won't be that start-stop kind of building stage. You'll be in building continuously right through, right until I'm finished with making cells. So that's my plan. This cell tracker card will follow this frame, so when this frame goes into slot B, this card will be shifted into B slot, and that way I can kind of follow what's going on. So I better close these guys up because I'm disturbing them too much. Let us back away. So this is what was done today in Builder D. So we have in slot A, we have a queen from BBQ. The graft is on May 24th. So if we check our calendar, 24th, so that means it'll go into the incubator June 1st and then to the nuke on June 3rd. So Carrie hasn't filled that out yet, but she will. Carrie called me out to the builder yard, she wanted to show me something. So you got 100% acceptance here, and terrific looking cells. Absolutely amazing. So we savor these moments.
Very well fed.
Very well fed bees. A job well done. So here we are transferring the cells into the foam case. This is day 8 in our schedule. We want to be as swift as we can and gentle at this stage because these cells are very vulnerable. This equipment's called JZB. How do you say that?
JZBZ.
JZBZ. It's extremely user friendly. We can simply twist these little cups, the cells, out of the graft bar very easily without any jarring or snapping or anything that will damage the developing queen inside. So once these are transferred into the foam case, this is where they stay for the next couple days in the incubator until we take them out to the yards to plant them into the nukes. As you can see, these terrific looking cells, I'd have to say so myself. As you can see, I leave all the fussing up to Carrie.
I'm good at that.
Into the incubator, they'll stay here for the next couple days. So we had a nice little rain shower last night. Today is going to be one of those, cool, wet, kind of miserable days. I have queen cells maturing today, which we have to get at, but we haven't pulled our nukes off yet because the weather hasn't been cooperating. It was raining yesterday, and I'll probably call Carrie in today to pull off the splits that we've made up. Should be able to get that done, and then we'll make use of these cells that come mature today. But I just want to show you the next step in the whole process. We missed 2 days of grafting now because of miserable weather, which is no big deal. Once we get back onto it tomorrow, we'll probably step it up and graft a couple bars just to make sure we satisfy our work as we move forward. So after, on day 8 within the builder, we transfer these cells into the incubator. So we have one set in the incubator right now. Yesterday we couldn't get into the hives to transfer those cells in the incubator, so they can stay put in the builder. The ones that needed to be transferred yesterday and the cells that needed to be transferred today likely will just stay put in the builder until we get a chance to get at them. And that's where the incubator comes into play. We use the incubator to help us manage our weather. When it's nice and the bees are flying and everything's happy, we can carry through with our plans, transfer everything into the incubator, and then when the weather turns miserable, it just allows us to manage our work without having to dig into the hives. So right now I have cells waiting for transfer in the incubator. We don't have to go into the hives to find these cells to transfer into the nucs. So you kind of see what I'm doing here. We're just adding one more step, one more layer to help us manage the weather, and it just makes our job so much easier. So I'm going to show you the cells in the incubator. The honey house is a bit of a mess right now, so you'll have to kind of excuse the chaos that's going on inside the honey house right now. You got to keep your crew busy, and you keep them busy with a bunch of jobs. Okay, so this is the yeah, place is full. I've had the guys, they're sorting boxes yesterday, so looks like they got a lot of work done yesterday. My incubator is just tucked around the side here. I like to keep it in this room because I need a nice, consistently cool room to set the incubator to keep the temperature within the unit more consistent. What we've got here is, I stepped up the temperature a little bit this year to 93. I had it at 92.5 last year, and I felt it was just a little bit slow. So we stepped it up to 93 to see if that'll quicken things up a little bit. We have the humidity is over 60%. We maintain the high humidity inside, which is good. So I'm just going to briefly open this up. So on day 8 from the builder, we transfer the cells into the foam case. We know what's going on because of our cell tracker card. Let's take a look at some cells here. Beautiful looking cells. These cells were put into the incubator packed full of royal jelly, and as you can see, a lot of it has been consumed, which is a good sign. I like these plastic queen cells because you can see inside. This one too. The cells have been made just packed full of royal jelly. Look at those queens have eaten pretty much all of it up. I'll close this up right away, but what we would do is we take this full case now out to the yard and we drop it into the carry case, which is this thing. And this plugs into the truck and it keeps the cells from chilling as we transport them out to the yard and then into the nucs. So as soon as they get put into the foam case into the incubator, then it's just a matter of transferring the cells with the foam case. It makes our job a lot easier. It also helps manage early hatches. When there's an early hatch, the queen is kept within the foam case and she can't get out and destroy other queen cells within the incubator. One thing I don't miss at all is buying queens. You know, buying import queens is just a bunch of stress wrapped up into a big ball of work. You know, I just hated whether to come through like this and receiving a shipment of 200 queens and having them sit on my desk. You know, the hive work isn't done. We got to get to the yards. We got to get these queens out. It was the stress that was not needed. So by managing my operation more in a self-sustainable queen rearing operation, I've been able to, you know, manage that stress out. There's still stress involved with, you know, we still have to follow through with the whole project, and we still have to We still need the weather. We still have to get the work done. But I don't have thousands of dollars sitting on my desk right now waiting to be put into work that's not done yet. So like right now I'm fussing over, I have 30 cells in the incubator. I'm going to pinch them off maybe if we don't get work done today. Another 30 cells for tomorrow. We're missing a couple days of graft. Big deal. We just, tomorrow we're just going to graft 120 instead of the typical 30. So, we're going to catch up a little bit that way. So there's just little details, and I can manage around all that. That cost sitting on my desk, and that, that whip that's telling me to work when we can't, isn't there anymore. And that's the basis around this whole queen rearing operation, is just trying to bring back a little more control into what I do in the operation and how I manage this place. Okay, so today we're making up some nucs, and I'm going to show you what I do. I have some guys working ahead finding queens just to quicken the job up a little bit. But typically what I do is I sort my hive through looking for the queen at the same time. It quickens things up, and I typically find her on my first way through. So that first one is the queen's been found. This one we haven't found the queen in yet, so I'll have to search for the queen as I go through this one, making up my nucs. But this time of year we take advantage of the bees' instinct and their drive to build their nest. And what we're doing is we're going through our colonies and we're slashing them right down into 2 brood frame nucs, and we're leaving that queen behind with just a little bit of brood behind and all the drift bees coming in from the day. So that queen will be left with a frame and a half of bees. And the drive and the instinct and the panic mode we set into that queen, when we do that, she'll reestablish that nest and turn that nest into something viable midway through summer. It's quite amazing. So we're going to make up these nucs into 2 brood frames. We'll leave these colonies behind with the old queen and just a bunch of the drift bees, and we'll come check them in 2 or 3 weeks to see how they're making out and use them to fill in dead spots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we split these hives. So I sent my guys ahead to find the queen to quicken up the process. So that's nice. This colony is not as big, so we won't split it 3 ways. But you just sort as you go. Nice brood, a nice brood frame. Another nice brood frame. This colony is done. One brood. Two brood, that nuc's done. So this nuc needs another frame of brood. This frame has just a little bit of eggs and larvae on it, some resource. So I'm going to leave the queen home with these little bit of bees. All the drifters from the day is going to come back in here to hold the population of about a frame and a half of bees. Empty frames of pollen. This is a real good way of using up some brood comb if you have extra. There we go. There. So that's how I make my nuc splits. So this next colony, I have not found the queen yet, but I'll be searching as we split this colony down. This colony is not as big, so I'm not going to be able to take 3 splits from it. That one probably can be left back. Good brood frame. And there she is. Right there. I'm just going to hold her aside. Where'd she go? Nuke's done. Made another nuke and a half a nuke. So I'm going to leave the queen. It's just resources and all the drift bees. There she is. That. What we're doing is we're making the splits out of the hives that didn't quite make the grade earlier on. This is the yard that I set my hives out earlier in the year from the winter shed. So these are just the stragglers that are set out that we left behind as we grouped the yards, scattered around. So we're just going through and we're splitting these hives right down, pinching off the queens that aren't any good, and then we're leaving the queens that are viable to reinstate that nest after we slash them down. So those guys are searching for queens for us, and here we are pulling the brood. The guys have already found our queens. Makes our work a little quicker. And we just simply go through and sort the honey and the brood to make up our nukes. We're looking for 2 good frames of brood to make up our nukes. So we leave the queen behind with a couple frames of bees and all the drifters that come in. They're out foraging, so there will be about 1 or 2 frames of bees in these colonies. Carrie's made 2.5 splits out of that. I've made 2 splits out of this one. We take these out to the yards, drop cells into them, they'll mate. And the amazing thing about this time of year, where we are the 13th of June, this is the time of year where the weather is a little more predictable. There's lots of resource on hand, and all the bees need to do is to be able to maintain the cluster size of that queen, and the bees will go into panic mode once we strip all the brood away from them. That queen will reinstate that nest and she'll lay right to the max, and she will, this time of year, we can exploit that sense of panic. She goes into panic mode when she realizes she has no brood left. She has, 2 frames of bees. She'll stretch that nest, and she'll reinstate that colony to be able to catch up to these nukes that we pulled out. You can't do that in May, and you have a hard time doing that in July. It's just this particular time in June where we can exploit that just before the solstice as it comes. They're in tremendous growth mode, a lot of resources out and available. Our nighttime lows are fairly consistent. This is high time for growth in Manitoba, and that's the spirit we're exploiting. And we can turn just this queen with a bunch of bees left back home. This will turn into a nest later on in July. We'll use these colonies to fill in splits, or we'll pinch off the queen and drop in cells to reestablish the youth in the hive. So this is how we make up our nukes. We come through and we just slash and burn, and then we have that queen rejuvenate that nest back home. So here's one of our pastures. Got a bee yard in the background there. Big open spaces here, you see, surrounded by bush and such. I set my hives out along the tree line. You know, lots of orientation markers here. I set them out in three-way pallets. This is how I make up my nukes, because I just don't want to lift these all the time. Saves a lot of back work. I use my easy loader to do it. And each entrance has an entrance reducer with a different color. Okay, so I have 3 colors going on here. Bees recognize blue, white, and yellow. They seem to love those colors. So I have my nukes scattered out along the tree line here, and the entrances, everything, like I have the entrances pointed in different directions and around landmarks, and then color coordinated. So that should help them get back. And what I do is we drop the cells in. We'll come back in, you know, 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever. We will count the successes, and we'll shake out the ones that didn't make it, and then we'll fill in the spots, take them away to the honey yard. So this is what we're doing. These are going to the nukes right now. We have about 40 cells inside here. These are going to go out to the nukes. These tags accompany them, so we can match the color to the tag, and then we will identify the breeder queen on the front of the nuke after they get mated. So Carrie's going to take Stubby out to transplant these cells. We have it plugged into the power unit in the truck. As you can see, the lights are on, so there's a little heating element inside this to keep the cells from chilling. And it'll keep the cells around the 92 to 93 degrees. So we come back to one of our mating yards. We wanted to check back on some hives that seem to be getting robbed. What's going on is we made up these nukes into these nuke boxes. We dropped the bees into the nuke box. They're all stirred up. We set them down into a yard with lots of bees. And those bees don't identify that box as their nest yet, because the scent, the smells aren't the same. We set them down in the middle of the day and give the opportunity for that bee yard to come and find that fresh smell honey wafting from those boxes, right? So the bees started to pick on a few of these hives. They started to rob. It wasn't too bad. Those hives have been able to establish that hive as theirs now, so they can defend that nest. They're defending, and there isn't any robbing going on anymore this morning. We dropped cells into them. So now it's just a waiting game. So what we're going to do is there's a few hives here that we dropped cells in. When did we put them in, Carrie? 2 days ago? Yeah, 2 days ago. We just want to see if there's a hatch going on here, if there's any success. So we'll just go take a peek. Okay, 2 queen cells in here again, because we were using up cells. We'll just see which one. I wonder if we could pull it out to try to salvage the integrity of the cell. We're ripping it apart if we can. Yeah, let's see if we can pull that cell out intact. Okay, so let's get a focus here. That queen has emerged. That's success, so we expect this one to be torn down because she would have emerged and when killed this cell like right away, which she did.
Yep.
Knocked her in the side.
Just
And the
before.
bees cleaned it out. Okay, one more. It's like Christmas morning.
Nothing like Christmas in June.
Christmas in June. 2 cells in this one too. So let's see what we got. Bees are in a really good mood. This one was torn down. You can see because of the, get my finger out of the way, the queen had come and killed the queen inside the cell through the sidewall. Now the bees have cleaned everything out, so we expect to see an emerged queen from this cell. And that is what we see. So these cells are in good shape. Should be a nice little virgin running around inside to establish the nest in these hives. So that's what I wanted to see, and now we just leave these guys alone and give them time. Now it's time to get back to work. I'm out in the evening picking nucs again. What do I have, 60 or 70 to pick up this evening? Got a little bit of a late start, but all the bees will be back in the box, that's for sure. I sent Carrie ahead. She queen checks. She marks the ones that aren't queen right, and I move everything into the next yard, then pull out the failures and then drop successes in just to fill in the pallet so we can box them up. So I'm gonna get at it. I'll show you what I do. It's not really all that complicated. I use everything, I palletize everything so I can use that thing, and I'm not lifting anything, so it should go fairly quick. I'll show you what I do. So these 3 nucs were checked this morning. This one's good, it's got a tag. This one's good, it has a tag. This one's a failure, she put the lid upside down. So what I can do is I can switch this out now with the viable hive. What I'm gonna do is, because I'm getting tired and I'm just gonna load up the truck and I'm gonna set these guys out tomorrow morning. I'll switch this spot out tomorrow morning with viable hive as I set them down into the yard. I was out moving nucs out last night, queen checking yesterday, and pretty much every day now we're checking queens and moving nucs out into their summer yards. So I'll show you, we have a honey flow going on right now, and I'll show you the nice yellow field in the background here. Thousands of acres of that yellow for these bees to collect. These hives are bringing nectar in. So what we want to do is we're going to box these nucs up, but we're going to have them share the space up top, and I'll show you what I'm doing here. Okay, these nucs, we have 3 nucs per pallet. There's 6 frames. So we queen check them and we bring them to the yards, and then we add You add excluders onto that one, Carrie. And then what we do is we add 2 excluders over top of the 3 nucs. We want to keep the queens separate from each other so that the excluders keep the queens down into their separate nuc box. So here's the division here, the queens can't get between. And then we simply stack boxes on top. So this method of making up nucs allows us to mate our queens, build up a decent colony to winter. We winter them indoors, and to minimize all the summertime maintenance from them, we have them build surplus into standard boxes, which are the same as the rest of the operation. So you notice here I have 6 on 6. We have about 85% success rate, so I take the dead outs, I put them underneath the viable nuc. So I'm going to have this queen build into both boxes, and then what we're going to do later on in summer is we're going to split these 2 boxes apart, equalize them, and then set out cells to reestablish the hive. I'm going to spot check on these nucs. Absolutely terrific little nests. These guys are going to establish themselves into nice little colonies. Here's one 6-frame nuc. Let's take a peek at this other one here. Packed right full of eggs, larvae. Lots of resources coming in. Neat and tidy.
If it rains tomorrow, we're just gonna be sorting boxes.
Yes, if we're so lucky.
I'd be okay with that.
Packed full of larvae. Terrific.
Sounds great.
Absolutely terrific. Beautiful laying. See that? I guess you'd have seen it.